Good afternoon and welcome to the Hurst Community Initiative Town Hall Speaker Series. My name is Evan Zislis. I'm the Director of Community Engagement for the Aspen Institute's Hurst Community Initiative. The work of HCI is focused on promoting dialogue, increasing understanding, and facilitating opportunities for meaningful collaboration among the communities of Parachute to Aspen, Colorado, located on ancestral lands of the Northern Ute. Today is the first event of an 8-part speaker series in a collaboration with the regional public libraries and chambers of commerce from Aspen, Basalt, Carbondale, Glenwood Springs, Newcastle, Silt, Rifle, and Parachute, Colorado. Throughout the series, interested stakeholders will tune in to learn more about the issues facing our communities and the local experts working to find collaborative solutions to the shared challenges of our region. Today's topic is environmental sustainability in the town of Basalt, co-hosted by the Basalt Regional Library and the Basalt Chamber of Commerce. Today's Zoom host is Garfield County Libraries, and interpretation to Spanish is brought to you by Velasco Language Services. Alex Garcia Bernal with the Garfield County Libraries will now share how to select the language of your choosing. Alex?
Good evening and thank you, everybody. Let me just take a moment to share my screen. We are on a Zoom webinar. We have a couple of different ways to communicate. Please use the chat if you have any quick comments or need any help with any technical difficulties. We'll get to you as soon as we can. And we've been having some of those today. If you have a question for our presenters or panelists, please use the Q&A function. This will save our question for an appropriate time for our presenters to answer. And finally, this is being presented in Spanish and English simultaneously. You'll see at the bottom of your Zoom menu on the right side, a gridded globe icon. If you click on this, you'll get this menu. Please choose English or Spanish due to your preference. If you get any feedback, make sure you mute original audio. If you need any help with these functions, please let me know through the comments in the chat. Thank you. Evan, back to you.
Thanks, Alex. As he mentioned, for today's webinar, please use the chat feature for technical questions. You may ask questions for our panel using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We'll leave time at the end to answer as many questions as possible. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so I want to introduce our moderator and our esteemed panel for today's discussion. Today, our moderator is Matthew Schmiegelski. Matthew is the founder and owner of Arcos Energy, a turnkey developer of high-power electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Matthew found his way to the Roaring Fork Valley 20 years ago in pursuit of a career in renewable energy. Sarah Nadolny. Sarah is a land use planner currently with the town of Basalt. Sarah has a dedicated interest in community and environmental sustainability and believes that policy is a necessary and highly effective tool to slow climate action and help people successfully adapt to a rapidly changing world. Fi Filerman. Fi is the Director of Climate Impact, the Community Office of Resource Efficiency, or CORE. She holds an MBA and a Master of Environmental Studies from the University of Colorado Boulder, where she focused on sustainable development and has worked in related positions for 20 years. Jake Israti. Jake has been Project Manager for Habitat for Humanity of the Roaring Fork Valley for nearly 3 years. He supervised the Basalt Vista project, consisting of 27 net zero affordable homes, and is currently planning Habitat's next project at Wapiti Commons in Rifle, Colorado. Jake has over 8 years of experience in construction management, previously working for a commercial construction company management company in New York City. And finally, Gail Schwartz, now the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity of the Roaring Fork Valley. Gail has resided on the Western Slope for over 50 years and began her career in community and resort planning. She's a former CU regent, a 2-term Colorado State Senator, and former director of the Aspen Pitkin County Housing Authority with over 40 years working in affordable housing policy and development. Renewable energy, resource development, and rural economic development were significant portions of her legislative portfolio. We're honored to have everyone joining us today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matthew.
Thanks so much, Evan. Very much appreciated, and very honored to be a part of this group that has so much experience and knowledge in the sustainability and energy space. I want to couch this that we're going to first discuss a bit about Basalt's programs and implementation and projects, and then move into Habitat and their work. So I'll hand it over immediately to Sarah to share the work that Town of Basalt is working on.
Great, thank you, Matthew. I'm Sarah Nadelny. I am a senior planner with the Town of Basalt, and I'm going to start with an overview of Basalt's climate action goals and climate action plan. So in 2017, the town adopted the Basalt Climate Action Plan, which is comprised of the Climate Action Plan for Eagle County communities and the Basalt Addendum. And basically, this commits the town to reducing its greenhouse gas emissions to 25% below 2014 levels by the year 2025 and 80% below 2014 levels by 2050. So basically, this means cutting a significant amount of metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent while the town is still experiencing significant growth. So what helps us do this is we've established a baseline. The town works with CORE, Community Office for Resource Efficiency, which you'll hear from next, on the creation of a greenhouse gas emission inventory report every 3 years. So the report divides Basalt's greenhouse gas emissions into categories such as buildings, ground transportation, aviation, and waste. And the 2019-2020 report has just become available to town staff. We're still looking to digest that, but each report thus far has found that buildings to be the most significant contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. So this report provides data and guidance to these areas where Basalt needs to focus its efforts in order to meet our climate action goals. So how are we working to achieve climate action goals while we're still growing as a community? Well, in 2007, the Green Team was established. This is a council-appointed citizen committee. They act as a referral agency to council on matters that keep the town's climate action goals a focus and provide recommendations on policies and projects that will assist with that greenhouse gas reduction goals. The town engages in strategic partnerships, regional discussions. Basalt's a member of the Climate Action Collaborative for Eagle County Communities. We're also a member of a statewide organization known as CC4CA, or Colorado Communities for Climate Action. And this organization advocates for state and federal policies to protect Colorado's climate for future and current generations. Moving on to policies, in 2019, the council passed a resolution declaring a climate emergency and requesting regional collaboration to mobilize efforts. So not only does this acknowledge the urgency of climate action, but also gives teeth to future actions and policies that the town might be interested in undertaking. Now, development within the town of Basalt is required to meet the town's sustainable building regulations. And this applies to commercial, multifamily, single family, as well as remodels of certain levels. The intent of the sustainable building regulation program is to encourage cost-effective, sustainable building methods to create durable, energy-efficient structures that conserve natural resources, that promote efficient use of building materials, and improve air quality. So the Sustainable Building Regulation Program has been around for a while. The current code has been in effect since 2019. There's currently a subcommittee that's working on amendments to those regulations for council's consideration that will put Basalt on the path to achieving net zero development in the near future. And we're hoping that to get that in front of town council in late May of this year. So moving on to the 2020 master plan, that was a great undertaking. It's an aspirational document that I think we're all very proud of. There was a great deal of community outreach that took place. Significant effort was made to include all the town citizens, business owners, and stakeholders. And all of the goals reflect a sustainable and resilient approach. So out of the process, we learned that environmental sustainability is a really key important issue for all of the stakeholders that participated. Out of this came a series of goals and objectives that were created related to Basalt's built environment, fire and water resiliency, and Basalt's environmental identity. Participants also ranked a number of actionable projects they want to see pursued by the town. So top 13 projects were included in the master plan. And this process, after it was adopted, ended up leading to a facility needs assessment, out of which was born the Basalt Forward 2030 initiative. And this provides a path to implementing those projects that were identified in the 2020 master plan. So 3 projects rose to the top. the Midland Avenue Streetscape project, funding workforce housing, and also making a significant capital investment to reduce Basalt greenhouse gas emissions. This is a very community-supported endeavor. Community members were asked to support these projects through an extension of 2 bonds, which were funded through property tax, that were set to expire in 2021 and 2023. And overwhelmingly, the voters did approve the extension of these bonds in last year's election, allowing the projects to move forward. So we are very thankful for that initiative from all of the voters. Moving on to some current projects, out of that 2030 initiative came the solar project that we're currently working on. And so through a competitive bid process, the town was contracted with McKinstry to perform an analysis of 7 potential sites around the town to determine their viability for the installation of solar PV as well as battery storage. And the solar is planned for up to a 0.5 megawatt system. McKinstry's also been tasked to work on the design of the solar system once a suitable site has been identified. The analysis of these sites is still underway, and a project is being undertaken in partnership with CORE, Holy Cross Energy, as well as the RE1 school district. Another project we're really proud of is the Basalt Pool. This is a public pool located at Arbany Park in Basalt. The pool and associated structure was originally built in 1994, so it's pretty dated. Had been identified as actually the largest energy user of all the town's municipal buildings. Energy improvements and a redesign of the public pool and its locker rooms and restrooms was undertaken in 2020. The pool's heating system was upgraded from an old, inefficient gas boiler to 8 cold climate heat pumps. And the town also installed over 22 kilowatts of solar photovoltaic panels on the roof of the pool building, which offsets more than half of the added electrical load requirements. So monitoring equipment is finally completely in place to enable the town to start tracking its energy savings, which of course translates to cost savings as well. And we expect to have data and an analysis performed at the end of this year. Regarding transportation, Basalt is a grand supporter of electric vehicle infrastructure. We currently have 1 level 3 DC fast charger behind Town Hall. It's currently free of charge to users. And 2 additional fast chargers will be added to 2 Rivers Road adjacent to Town Hall this summer. The town's also implemented the Downtowner, which is a free on-demand service shuttle for use within the town's limits. And we partnered with RAFTA to provide free bus service between Old Town and Willits, which used to cost $1 and could kind of be prohibitive. And lastly, I want to introduce a program that I'm pretty excited about. This is a rebate incentive program. So the town, in partnership with CORE and Holy Cross Energy, will be offering rebates to Basalt homeowners to incentivize retrofits of existing housing stock. And the rebates will be offered in the categories of insulation and air sealing, electrification, energy efficiency, and battery storage and controls. So we're talking here cold climate heat pump water heaters, insulation projects, battery backup, and more. So CORE is going to be administering this project on behalf of the town. The program is expected to go live in early May. Of course, there are going to be conditions and requirements for the program, but more information will become available quite soon through the Town of Basalt's website and CORE's in the coming days. And the idea here is to help our community make changes to aging buildings, to create better performance, save money, and get at that largest category of greenhouse gas emitters. Thank you. I apologize if I was going a little bit fast there, but I appreciate you hearing about what the town's been doing.
Thanks so much, Sarah. That's great information, and the town has been up to so much. So it's great to hear how much work is being accomplished there. Yeah, there's the other presenters didn't catch on the chat, there is a request from the interpreter to slow down pace to allow time to actually do that interpretation. So if we could be mindful of that going forward and just try and slow down. I know it's difficult, but keep that in mind. Fi, I'd like to introduce and hand things over to you and discussion of course programs and projects. Thanks.
There we go. Sorry about that. Thanks, Matt. I will try not to let my East Coast fast talking take over in this presentation. But so I'm with CORE, the Community Office of Resource Efficiency, and we've been working in the Valley since 1994, really working with our communities to reduce energy, reduce climate, reduce carbon emissions, strategy, provide a variety of services. And currently we're focused primarily on the Upper Valley communities. So the Town of Basalt, Eagle County territory on this, on the 82 corridor, Pickens County, the Town of Snowmass Village, and the city of Aspen. And we provide a variety of services, from building programs to working on technical assistance and things. And we've been very proud to get to work with Basalt so much in the last few years on a lot of their initiatives. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about some specific projects that we have done with Basalt, many of which Sarah has already mentioned, a little bit more about our programs, and then talk a little bit about kind of how I think having a regional organization like CORE supports, Valley, and is really a critical piece to helping all of our communities reach their climate action goals. So, Sarah had mentioned some of the things we've done in the Town of Basalt, from technical assistance. We were part of the team on the pool project that she mentioned. We also worked with the project, the Art Center in Willits, which is an all-electric project where we provided both technical assistance as well as some grant funding to support that. We feel like these projects are really important throughout the Valley because they create inspiration. People see them. It demonstrates that the technology is applicable in our communities. It gets people excited to do their own projects. So we feel like those really inspirational projects that we support our communities on make a big difference in terms of just sort of moving the whole Valley forwards with these goals. Another big part of what we provide is our building services, our building programs. As Sarah mentioned, our greenhouse gas inventories show that buildings are our biggest contributor to our emissions in this region. And so we have what we call our Path to Zero, which is open to both residential and commercial buildings. That it's kind of a unique program, and it's the program that we're going to be running the incentive program for Basalt through. And instead of, a lot of energy efficiency programs, I think they just provide a rebate. So you need a new heating system, you install a more efficient furnace, and then you apply for a rebate. And the Path to Zero is really trying to show people that any action is part of a continuum, and that you want to know kind of where you're going on your own path to continually reducing your emissions. So when people sign up for the Path to Zero, we do an assessment of their building to start, and then they're required to meet with one of our advisors to understand where they are on the path and what actions make the most sense and in what order, so that we can really help them have the largest impact. So we think that that's a really exciting program, and we're really happy to be supporting the town on their double incentive program as a part of that, because we think we can really have a big impact working together with them and kind of that combined marketing and things. So that's really exciting. CORE also, being a regional organization, has the advantage to take on some special projects that no one community might take on because it may not directly support their greenhouse gas inventory reductions. But I'm thinking specifically of a project we have right now called the Coal Basin Project, which we're looking at reducing or capturing methane. There's a large we've discovered that there's some fairly large methane being released from some abandoned coal mines that we have in Pickens County across from Redstone. And because being a regional organization, we're able to fund and help support this project to look at whether capturing that methane, which by our early calculations is reducing as much emissions annually as all of Pickens County. So it's got a huge impact. So our ability is to kind of help move that kind of a project forward. That would be really exciting for our whole, for the whole community. So you also do a little low to middle income programs, which of course tie into the work that Habitat does and some of the goals for the housing and making sure we can maintain affordable housing in the communities. And that's providing enhanced incentives and support for low to middle income households in our Valley. And talking a little bit about kind of the advantages of being a regional organization is that it really lets us provide services, these programs, technical support that each of our communities on their own may not be able to have the in-house expertise to provide, or that additional administration. I think a perfect example is the work we did on the greenhouse gas inventories that Sarah mentioned. CORE managed the development of those for all of the communities, so each one of the communities individually. And then we also are doing a regional report. And what this gave us the opportunity to do was to align the methodologies that each of our communities used so that we can really make sure we're not double counting, and we can use a regional report to help all of our communities recognize where working together can really help them all address their climate action goals and make faster progress towards meeting those. So, so that's the kind of projects where having that kind of bigger picture is really helpful, I think, that you get from a regional type of organization. I think another example that we're really proud of is Eagle County really wants to focus on workforce housing in this next year. So low to middle income, as well as trying to work more closely with multifamily buildings. And this is a very similar goal that the APSHA, which I just found out Gail used to run, which I didn't realize. That's the Aspen Pickens County Housing Authority. They also really want to start looking at how to make their buildings more efficient, reduce the carbon impact, electrify those buildings. And having these goals in multiple communities and having the fact that CORE works with both, we can then work with both communities and combine forces and develop strategies for all of them all at the same time. So it kind of creates that economies of scale, which I think is really valuable. And I'm going to use that as a segue to say that I think sustainability, it's environmental, but being able to reduce and provide workforce, housing for our workforce is also a key component of a sustainable community. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Basalt Vista, which was another project that CORE was a part of, but there we go.
Thanks, Vi. Appreciate that information and all the work that CORE does throughout the region. And also at the top, I didn't share that we'll go through a discussion here and share highlights of everybody's work, and then we'll move into a sort of an open discussion to sort of get into questions and details following that. So with that, I'll hand it over to Gail Schwartz and to discuss and share the work that Habitat is doing.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to join everyone, and thank you to the Garfield County Libraries and the Aspen Institute, really to bring together some important perspectives on the future of this valley and future opportunities for us to work together. I think that this partnership is really a theme, and we are about finding a path to homes, and especially home ownership for people that live and work in our region. So just high level, we have about a shortage of about 5 million homes nationally for people to live safely and affordably in our region. Our 2019 regional housing study identified 4,000 shortfall in homes that would be safe and would be relevant to and affordable to families in our workforce. But a lot has happened since 2019. We had COVID, and that impacted our workforce. We had this migration into our community from other urban areas that has really been a disruptor to our housing stock, and also the short-term rentals is also a disruptor, that where we had properties that typically functioned as workforce housing, long-term rentals, that no longer exists. So we are in really a crisis like we've not seen before in the past. Habitat has been in the Roaring Fork Valley. Our region is from Aspen to Parachute for the last 22 years. We have accomplished to build over 60 homes for over 200 adults and children. And you typically would know Habitat as that one house at a time that was being built by volunteers, but we really evolved to wanting to be part of this solution. And that would mean that we would now be building neighborhoods. And as you're seeing, that Basalt Vista is that opportunity. We have an amazing board of expertise and professionals that are working together to support our staff. Obviously, everybody knows the Restore, and that is another energy efficient enterprise of ours, along with Basalt Vista. But also we developed a strategic plan. So we know where we're going, and this ability to build neighborhoods, bring on homes that are affordable and energy efficient is clearly at the heart of what we're doing. But we couldn't do this without our partners. Our partners being the Roaring Fork School District. They put the land underneath Basalt Vista, over a $3 million parcel, the equivalent of Pickens County came in and put in the funds for the infrastructure. Town of Basalt helped us with partially funding the solar, but also funding taps. And then Holy Cross Energy, the Brain Trust, Holy Cross Energy, Core, NREL, those are the entities that really said, hey, why run a gas line? Let's have an all electric community. Let's show some real leadership when it comes in innovation, which is where the construction sector is so lacking, is really innovation around construction and opportunity and looking at an all electric community. So with that support and continued support of Holy Cross Energy, Core, NREL, we're able to not only have built the project, and thank you for funding to put these solar panels on top of the homes to integrate that when Jake is going to talk about what this consists of with a really stout structure and energy efficient appliances. We have homeowners that are benefiting for as low as $14 per month utility bills. That's all in, not including their water. So that is true affordability. It's truly predictable. But what it also means is that we're striving for equity around housing our workforce. We're striving for equity and supporting our Latinx community. 34% of Basalt Vista is owned by Latinx families, and by comparison, only 4% of Latinx, 4% of Pickens County's households are owned by Latinx families. 90% of our homeowners are first-time homeowners. So we are transitioning people that have been in rental housing, which doesn't provide the stability and also creates unpredictable futures. You're not building equity, you're not building appreciation, and we're providing an opportunity to stabilize those families in homes long-term. This is really critical for us. There's not to use too many acronyms, AMI is the area medium income. That is the way incomes are measured throughout the country. And we are looking at households earning approximately $74,000 to around $100,000. And those are households that have been able to buy at Basalt Vista, and consequently their mortgages are a fraction of what they would be paying for a home of the equivalent size on the free market. So they're paying $1,500 to $2,000 a month, and including their HOAs, to house a family in a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom home. This is how we can work together. We can solve these issues. We can house our essential workforce. We can keep families that are so critical to us and so vulnerable to us, and have them live and work live in the places close to the places they work. That is good for businesses. That's good for our community. That's good for our schools. And this is where we really feel that's the important work of Habitat, and we'll look forward to working together. We have just broken ground on Wapiti Commons in Rifle, South Rifle, where we'll have condominiums and townhouses. We're proposing 8 homes for our older adults and ADA community. Again, seeking equity and opportunity for people to live and work in Rifle, that we have tremendous data that shows the benefit of stabilized families. It builds wealth. It supports education of our children. It supports the mental health needs and the financial needs, but Habitat is in a position of setting families up for success. And we support them through education, financial literacy, and make sure that people are set up for success through affordable mortgages and homes. So we're pretty excited about our work. We are a drop in the bucket, 27 homes, 60 homes, now most recently 27, moving on to 20. So working together, but energy efficiency is really part of our mission because we know that true is an underpinning of affordability. So I'd like to turn it over to Jake to describe what Basalt Vista is about, what PD is going to be about.
Thanks so much, Gail. That's great, great discussion, great information. And Jake, hand it over to you and share some of the details of what is a really pioneering project to provide efficient, affordable housing at Basalt Vista.
Thank you, Matthew. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, so Basalt Vista is a 27 home, all electric net zero community located behind Basalt High School. It consists of units that are 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. There are duplexes and triplexes throughout the neighborhood. And I won't say the partners again, but we couldn't have done it without our partners that Gail described before. So when you're going net zero, there are multiple factors to consider. Of course, it needs to be all electric, and you need to be producing as much energy on average for the year as the home is using. You can also be producing more energy and be feeding back to the grid. So Holy Cross will provide energy credits. So in the summer, you're feeding back to the grid and you're building up energy credits to then use in the winter when you don't have as much sunlight and the sun sets earlier, and the home is using more energy than what the solar panels on the roof are producing. So in order to be net zero, you need to have a tight building envelope with good code exceeding insulation. You need Energy Star appliances, special HVAC system, which I'll go into a little bit after. Water heating using a heat pump water heater, LED lighting. And we're looking to the future as well by installing a outlet for EV charging, which is also included in that net zero calculation. So all of this enables you to be net zero by putting the solar panels on the roof. If you didn't use energy efficient systems like this, then you wouldn't be able to fit the amount of solar panels to be net zero on your roof. You would need to have them in your backyard and your roof, and it wouldn't be efficient, and it would cost a lot more. So our homes have an R23 insulation, R5 exterior blue board. We do a blower door test, and I might add that Basalt has some high standards for their codes. So we need to get a blower door test below a 3, which is basically your air leakage in the home, and which is pretty tight in general. Your windows play a big factor. Your U factor in your windows are the insulation in the window. Your appliances need to be all Energy Star and electric. We use an induction range, which is 90% efficient, where standard ranges are more along the lines of 55%. Your HVAC system is air source heat pump, which sounds similar to what Basalt has switched over for their pool. And all of these cost money. And what I've identified that it's about 15% extra to do these energy efficient changes. Some of the other things that we are doing is a heat pump water heater, which is about 2 to 3 times more efficient than a traditional water heater. Costs about double the price of an electric water heater, but the payback on that is well worth it. Under 3 years for what you get back in terms of the energy efficiency and the power it's drawing. When your home is this tight, you need to have what's called an energy recovery ventilator to bring in fresh air to the home. So basically the air gets stale because you need to have that blower door test that's below a 3 for Basalt. So if you didn't have this, the air would get stale and it wouldn't be healthy. As I said, we do EV charging, and all of these contribute to a utility bill that's $13 or $14 a month, which is just the price to be connected to the grid. We also have 4 homes that batteries were donated by Holy Cross Energy. And these homes are truly the future. So if the power goes out, these homes are still online. And Holy Cross has donated these batteries in exchange for being able to draw power from them as needed. So we feel we found the balance of how to be energy efficient, but also cost efficient. Of course, we're Habitat for Humanity. We're not for profit, so every dollar matters. We need to fundraise for every extra dollar we spend. So we are committed to long-term affordability by keeping energy bills low, but we also need to make sure we stay in business and can keep doing what we're doing. So that's the challenge, and we feel we've found the formula, and we are planning to mimic it for Wapiti Commons 20 homes coming up in Rifle.
Thanks, Jake. That's a great overview and very exciting to hear about, and how much awards and accolades that the Basalt Vista and the replicability of that project to be shared more widely is really exciting. Well, let's jump in. I think we've got a good overview of the work that's been accomplished, and move into some discussion. I think for me, I want to cover some maybe lessons learned. We're moving into what is really advanced and next generation technology and application of that. As we were discussing it, it really became clear to me that a town of a fairly small rural western Colorado town has multiple multifamily all electric buildings that have come online in the recent past. I'm thinking of Skiko's worker housing that was all electric, as well as you mentioned, Taka and Basalt Vista. So incredible to have a town with a small town that has really pushed the envelope. I don't know, Sarah or Fi, if you have sort of going through that process of how that was developed, and Jake as well, that process of developing and steering the project in that way. Was it more of out of the ground, hey, we're going to go this direction, or was it driven by code, or was it driven by some externality to help at least seed the idea, and then where did it go from there? Any thoughts?
I'd be curious to hear from Habitat as well as Core.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, predating my time with the town, we've been just really kind of driven to position ourselves as, an environmentally sustainable community. It's been something that we have had great partnerships within our town. We are the home of the Growing Fork Conservancy, of RMI, of Aspen Global Change Institute, Skiko, that does a lot of wonderful work in this realm. And it just kind of became something that became more and more important as we go. I'd love to hear from the developer's perspective of how that has grown for you. Developer meaning Habitat.
I would just say that it evolved. The conversations evolved. I think the thinking evolved, because we had the benefit of one of the most progressive rural electric utilities in the country with very high, they have amazing goals. We have CORE, which had funding and expertise. And we certainly had our designers, land planners, architects, all on board, but it took years to really bring this concept together. And it wasn't a wash. Should we have a gas line or should we have solar? No, it clearly is a big investment. And just to be very frank, that looking at 20 new homes in Rifle, it's a $500,000 investment to put solar on those roofs. I've not found that $500,000 yet. CORE helped us get there, and so did the town in part. But these are big commitments, and you don't make these decisions easily because it is that extra cost that a home owner or a developer or Habitat have to bear. Your thoughts, Jake?
Yeah, all I would add is that yes, the cost is about 15% more, and that's not including the money we received from CORE to go directly towards the solar panels. So, we probably couldn't have done it without these partners. Been so high. So CORE gave. I think 100,000 for solar and 100,000 for heat pumps.
Yeah.
So when I say 15%, I'm figuring they haven't given that to us. So without these partners, it probably would not have been possible.
Exactly, and I think that setting a standard of, I think that's where we broke the glass ceiling. That we build affordable housing with partners. And energy, and we combine it with energy efficiency, and now Habitat, our affiliate, has just received this award here at this International Habitat Conference for the multifamily project. This is remarkable for us to have these 27 homes and this project be acknowledged, really across the globe as taking multifamily housing to that next step. Many communities are stepping up, doing similar things on the Western Slope. You probably read Colorado Sun articles, but this is where we can now take it yet another step. So. And carbon's the next step, right? Is that, Jake, want to discuss that?
Discuss carbon?
Looking at our projects being carbon neutral. So.
Yeah, I think, we haven't looked at that in depth, but whether we can offset our carbon, we definitely feel we're doing our part with the solar panels, but if there's a way to maybe offset our carbon footprint by planting trees or something along that, maybe with volunteers, maybe that would be a good next step for us. Someone actually at this conference right here brought up something very interesting with me, and maybe, like, for example, I flew on Delta Airlines, who's committed to, they're carbon neutral, and whether, a big whale of a company like that would be willing to contribute to Habitats in order to make that impact to be carbon neutral, and as a marketing tool, maybe a route to explore as well.
Yeah,
they pay for the solar panels, and then they can say, they're contributing.
Right.
Indeed.
With some kind of a local offset of some sort.
Yeah.
Interesting,
that's an
because
interesting model.
Virgin Aviation, who runs the Aspen airport, is looking at for local renewable energy local projects to offset some of the emissions from the airport. And I know they've been working with Holy Cross on that. So Jake, you're right on. That's a great model.
I guess, one thought that comes to mind too is we mentioned code a lot, and Jake and multiple elements of this. What does the town see in Basalt in terms of that adoption path? I think I've worked with communities across the region, and there's varying levels of adoption. There's some jurisdictions that are in the 2011, 2014 sort of building code adoption. What have you experienced in the town? Is there is it hesitancy to adopt that next generation of code, or is it something that is more of a push pull? What do you see and moving that forward, because it is indicated to be so helpful in moving towards more climate friendly and lower carbon solutions?
Yeah, I don't see a hesitancy there. The town of Basalt is looking to adopt the 2021 building code towards the end of this year. We have been working regionally, so my understanding is that we would be on pace with our other communities in the Roaring Fork Valley to be adopting the code at the same time. We think there's a lot of value in giving developers a predictability, with what code they're going to be under. And honestly, it also, is a way to kind of prevent community shopping when it comes to where you want to locate particular types of development, so I think that is something that we're definitely supportive of.
Oh, wow. So working with multiple jurisdictions to adopt it at a similar pace is, I hadn't thought of the dynamic of potentially,
I'll
raising
just add
all
that
those.
Basalt has.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Sorry, I was just going to add that Basalt has a pretty progressive, sustainable building regulations that builders need to meet. And if you are not meeting their SBR code, Sustainable Building Regulation Code, you get fined. And really, the only way you're going to get builders to do that is to implement things like that. I think the question then becomes is how do you avoid all the home prices going even more out of control then?
Yeah. Well, look at the what the Pitkin County is putting in place and really trying to manage the amount of deconstruction that's going on and the incentives for, well, we certainly are very happy at Habitat to take those doors and those windows and really make sure that this isn't going into the landfill. That right now we're probably diverting, let's say everybody that donated to Habitat, diverting 6 million pounds from the landfill annually. So this is a way that this reuse, recycle, it's all part of the same conversation. It's not just our energy use, but it is our consumption of resources, and that builds this ethic. And I think that's where, as a valley and a region, we come together and we have real leadership, and it helps to have us working together to arrive at these solutions.
That is a great segue. Matthew, I would love to jump in. We have several questions from our audience, and we're going to get to as many as we can in the last 10 minutes here. As a segue from what Gail was just alluding to, this says, for rural communities across the state and around the country who may be watching this, what suggestions do you have for municipalities and community leaders eager to pursue more aggressive initiatives focused on environmental sustainability? And I'll just ask the group.
So I can start us off. I think a huge piece is that collaboration. I think what we've discovered is there is so much to do to reach our climate action goals that no one community has the resources to do it themselves. And addressing the waste. Pitkin County has developed a great model for addressing that. And then they've taken it and they've gone to all the municipalities throughout in their area that come to the landfill and said, hey, would you like to use our program? I think, Habitat's a great example of, we created this great model with Basalt Vista, but then we're taking it to other places throughout our community. using what Basalt's really been a leader in our building codes, I think, and is, working with all the communities, but, there's sustainable building regulations that they've recently updated have then been shared throughout other communities in Eagle County as a possible model. So then they don't have to do that themselves. We have this group that, of building all the building departments throughout the valley. It actually includes Garfield and in Glenwood Springs and all of the, some of the jurisdictions that have been slower to adopt more aggressive codes. But having that collaborative group, now they can talk to Amanda Poindexter at Basalt, who is so great about, so knowledgeable on these codes, and they can get her input on how to adopt them and how to, bring the workforce along. And then regionally, having everyone have those same codes does help us keep those costs down a little bit, because all the builders aren't trying to juggle understanding the codes from all the different jurisdictions. There's much more common. So I really, that kind of much more regional mindset and collaboration, I think, makes a huge difference.
And I'd like to build on that, to have incentives in place.
Yeah.
If you can move towards cost neutral, let's reward good behavior, and let's find ways that maybe fees are cut, times are cut. Expediting review process, time is money. And when you have a nonprofit developer doing this, let's cut back when you have communities that are willing to waive fees, because that's kind of they want to attract those developers to their community.
I can just add one last.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, that's okay, sir. Go.
Just one last thing. I think that the importance from a policy perspective is really having communities actually adopt their own climate action plan and have strategic goals, how to reach that plan. I think that, it was just, before I was, involved with the town of Basalt, I guess I just didn't really realize most communities probably don't have their own climate action plan. You need something you can point to, something that holds you accountable. And when you're making these tough decisions, as to where to put energy or project or funding, you kind of need to keep going back to that thing going, we are held accountable by this plan. We're accountable to our constituents by this plan.
And I'd like to mention, as we work more collaboratively in our region, that we can go to the state and to the federal governments, because there's money there. And if we speak to these objectives, there are resources available to us that we can go in and acquire, and again, help support these programs in our communities, help support communities developing those plans. But these are really critical objectives that not every community is capable of arriving at their own plans. So
this is oh, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
No, I was going to jump in and talk a bit about transportation. I haven't really shared or discussed the work that I really am focused on through my business and most of my career in the recent past. And so really, cutting edge, I would say, and just kind of not well understood. It's a new technology in terms of electric vehicle adoption. What is a level 3? What is a level 2? Those sorts of things. So as much, in a similar vein, how can we share best practices? There's been some readiness plans that have been created. City of Aspen has drafted one a few years ago, and there's a few other communities that are looking at that sort of dynamic to how to prepare. What is the best practice? What sort of technology should we be looking at in terms of capacity? Where do we want to locate it? And then now, I would say the wave is really starting to crest on that industry as so much media and product availability and all these different aspects of that industry are starting to really move in tandem at a really, what I would say, rapid pace. We're seeing 10% or so of sales nationally going electric, and I think that pace is going to increase pretty dramatically. Norway, to speak to one country that has pushed really hard, has got 82% of new car sales in the most recent quarter have been electric, which is
Wow.
that's sort of where the future lies. And you can imagine the pace of infrastructure to be able to keep up with 82% of new cars being electric. So however we can, sort of prepare and look at that. And then, secondarily to that, it's not just consumer vehicles, it's all duties of vehicles. So you're talking school buses, we're talking hotel shuttle buses, rental cars. I've worked on projects in all three categories of those in the last, literally I left a project site within the last 2 hours to begin that work or finalize it in some cases. So, really dramatic shift. I think probably one of the biggest shifts in technology in a long time. The internal combustion engine has been around for 100 years and hasn't moved a whole lot in that time. So
I want to stay on that theme, Matt. Just thinking of emerging industries, this question says, are there specific sustainability focused technologies and innovations you're following in other communities that you aspire to bring to Basalt and the Roaring Fork Valley? So what are those emerging industries out on the horizon that you're kind of pining for?
I think the biggest one is electrification and heat pumps. We have a few other challenges some other communities may not because of our altitude. So things that are being pioneered elsewhere, we may or may not be able to bring here. But I think we've done a great job really pioneering that effort to go all electric and get away, and sort of create those models for getting off of natural gas and our other kind of greenhouse gas-based fuels.
And storage is a huge one. The advancement in the technology of batteries, as well as solar panels.
Yeah, and again, I think we're almost more leaders than followers. I don't know. The battery program, Holy Cross has a great battery program where they're financing people to put. They will basically pay to have the batteries installed in your home, with like the Habitat for Humanity group said, that they can then tap into when they need it. Big reason is that when in electrical, when you pass a certain level, then all of a sudden you need to go pull energy from less efficient or dirtier resources. And so by being able to tap into the batteries in people's homes, they can then control that and not have to tap into those other energy sources as often, or if at all. But Holy Cross is such a leader in that, like Gail had mentioned earlier, that we're so lucky to have in the Valley.
It's so true, and give everyone a Chevy Volt, and heck, that's the battery. And so it let's create, take a real systems approach. Let's look at our public transportation, that little Basalt connector. Why isn't that electric? Let's start talking about what the opportunities are, because I think the public sector can lead on these with incentives, with opportunities. And I just feel that because the thinking is here, and how we can find more ways to work together.
Well, with that, Matthew, Sarah, Phi, Jake, Gail, I can't thank you enough. And to our viewers, thank you for joining the Hurst Community Initiative Town Hall Speaker Series. This presentation was the first of 8 webinar events broadcasting every 2 weeks from April through July. In 2 weeks, on April 27th from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Time, our second event in the series will feature an Aspen-focused discussion on workforce resilience in mountain towns with esteemed panelist Auden Schendler, Senior Vice President of Sustainability at Aspen Skiing Company, Cara Silbernagel, Policy and Project Manager for Pitkin County, Jonathan Jones, General Manager of Atlantic Aviation, Carolyn Tucker, Regional Business Services Manager for Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, with our moderator, Allison Bektesh, Communications Manager for the Aspen Chamber Resort Association. Thanks again to Velasco Language Services for your commitment to translating important information to our esteemed Spanish-speaking community throughout the region. Very special thanks to Alex Garcia Bernal and Garfield County Libraries for generously Zoom hosting this series, as well as co-sponsors Aspen Public Radio, our regional public libraries and chambers of commerce. To you, our participating viewers, you are, of course, always invited to check out upcoming events and ongoing projects of the Aspen Institute's Hurst Community Initiative at aspen2parachute.org. That's Aspen, the number 2, parachute.org. I'm Evan Zislis, Director of Community Engagement for the Aspen Institute's Hurst Community Initiative. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to connecting with you at the same time in 2 weeks. Talk soon.